You walk onto a cricket field and 50,000 people go silent. Not because they're excited to see you play, but because they remember the last time you tried to bat. You scored just 2 runs in 5 tries at the biggest tournament in the world. Now everyone is waiting to see if you'll fail again. This nightmare was real for Keith Arthurton, a cricket star whose career was destroyed in the most shocking way possible. In 1996, one of the world's best batters forgot how to play cricket when it mattered most. What happened to him is so unbelievable that people still talk about it today, almost 30 years later. Keith's story will change how you think about pressure, failure, and how quickly life can fall apart. It's about a man who climbed to the very top of world cricket, only to watch his career crumble in front of millions of viewers in just a few weeks. Keith Arthurton came from Nevis, a tiny Caribbean island with only 12,000 people. To put this in perspective, that's smaller than most shopping malls on a busy Saturday. Getting one person from Nevis to play international cricket is like finding a lottery ticket worth $1 million in your old jeans. Getting 3 people is almost impossible. But Keith became the 3rd person in history from his small island to wear the famous maroon cap of the West Indies cricket team. For the people of Nevis, Keith wasn't just a sports star, he was living. Proof that big dreams could come true even in the smallest places. Keith had special talents that made him dangerous on a cricket field. He was left-handed, which gave him an advantage because most bowlers practiced against right-handed batters. But his real weapon was power. When Keith hit the ball, it flew like a rocket. Fielders had to duck for cover when his shots came their way. He could also bowl, spinning the ball in ways that confused opposing batters. Having someone who could both bat and bowl well made Keith twice as valuable to his team. In cricket, players like this are called all-rounders, and they're worth their weight in gold. When Keith first played for the West Indies in July 1988, cricket fans across the Caribbean went wild with excitement. The West Indies had ruled world cricket for years with legendary players like Viv Richards and Malcolm Marshall. These men were cricket gods who struck fear into opposing teams. But by the late 1980s, some of these legends were getting old. The West Indies needed young blood to keep their winning ways alive. Keith looked like he could be the next superstar to carry on the tradition. Cricket experts loved everything about Keith's game. He had natural talent, but more importantly, he had the fighting spirit that West Indies cricket was famous for. In his early matches, Keith showed flashes of brilliance that made people believe he could become one of cricket's all-time greats. Keith's international career started like a dream. He played in test matches, which are the longest and most respected form of cricket. These games can last up to 5 days, and only the very best players in the world get chosen for them. Between 1988 and 1995, Keith played 33 test matches, proof that coaches believed in his ability. He also played shorter one-day matches that lasted about 8 hours. Keith continued playing these games for the West Indies until May 1999, giving him an international career spanning over 10 years. Most cricketers would kill for a career like that. During his peak years, Keith had performances that left crowds speechless. He could turn losing games into victories with his explosive batting. When other batters failed, Keith would step up and smash the ball to all corners of the ground. His bowling also saved matches, taking crucial wickets when the team desperately needed them. Off the field, Keith became a hero to young people across the Caribbean. Kids from tiny islands looked at him and thought, if Keith can make it, so can I. He showed them that your birthplace doesn't determine your dreams. Talent and hard work can take you anywhere. Playing for the West Indies in the 1990s came with incredible highs and crushing pressure. The good parts were obvious: traveling the world, playing in front of massive crowds, earning money doing what you loved, and becoming famous across the Caribbean. But the pressure was unlike anything most people can imagine. Cricket in the Caribbean isn't just a sport, it's a religion. When the West Indies played, entire countries stopped working to watch. School kids snuck radios into classrooms. Office workers crowded around televisions. Grandmothers who never played sports became tactical experts. This meant Keith wasn't just playing for himself or his teammates. He was playing for millions of people across dozens of islands who saw the team's success as their own. When the West Indies won, the whole Caribbean partied. When they lost, it felt like a death in the family. Keith handled this pressure well in his early career. He had the confidence and skill to deliver when stakes were highest. Teammates respected him, coaches trusted him, and fans adored him. Everything seemed perfect. By 1996, Keith Arthurton was established as one of cricket's elite players. He had 8 years of international experience and was considered crucial to the West Indies team. At 31 years old, he was in his prime, experienced, enough to handle pressure, young enough to be at his physical best. Then came the announcement that would change his life forever. The 1996 Cricket World Cup would be held in India, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka. The World Cup happens only every 4 years and is cricket's biggest stage. Hundreds of millions of people watch from around the globe. For cricketers, performing well in a World Cup can make you a legend. Performing badly can destroy your reputation forever. For Keith and the West Indies, this World Cup was their chance to prove they were still cricket royalty. The team had won the first 2 World Cups in 1975 and 1979, but hadn't won since. This was their opportunity to remind the world of their greatness. The tournament format was brutal. Every match mattered enormously. Teams played in groups, and only the best advanced to knockout rounds. There was no time to find your rhythm slowly or recover from bad starts. You had to perform immediately or go home early. Keith entered the World Cup with sky-high expectations. His record proved he could handle big moments, and his explosive batting style was perfect for the shorter World Cup format. Cricket experts predicted he would be one of the tournament's star performers. Newspapers and television stations from every cricket-playing country sent reporters to cover the tournament. Every ball bowled, every run scored, every catch taken would be analyzed by millions of fans and hundreds of experts. The spotlight was blinding. Nobody, not Keith, not his teammates, not the coaches, not the millions of Caribbean fans, could have predicted the horror that was about to unfold. The day 1996. World Cup began with the usual excitement and hope, but from Keith's very first innings, something was terribly wrong. The confident, powerful batter who could destroy bowling attacks had vanished. In his place stood a nervous, uncertain shadow who looked like he'd never held a cricket bat before. In cricket, each time a player goes out to bat is called an innings. Keith had 5 innings during the World Cup, 5 chances to show his class and help his team win. These 5 opportunities became the most catastrophic period in cricket history. What happened next defies belief. Keith scored exactly 2 runs across all 5 innings combined. Not 2 runs per innings, 2 runs total. To understand how impossible this seems, imagine a professional basketball player missing every shot in 5 straight games, or a soccer striker missing the goal completely every time they got the ball. Let's put Keith's failure in context. Average club players usually score 15-20 runs per innings. Good international players regularly score 30-50 runs each time they bat. Elite players like Keith often scored 80, 90, or even 100-plus runs in a single innings. Keith managed 2 runs in 5 separate attempts. This means in 4 of his 5 innings, he scored either 0 or 1 run before getting out. The numbers were so bad they seemed like a cruel joke. But the low scores only told part of the story. Anyone watching Keith could see his confidence evaporating in real time. The Keith Arthurton, who used to smash balls over the boundary rope, had been replaced by someone who looked terrified of the cricket ball. His usual confident stance became hunched and defensive. His timing, once perfect, was completely off. His footwork, normally smooth and balanced, became clumsy and awkward. Most shocking of all, his decision-making, knowing which balls to hit and which to leave alone, completely abandoned him. It was like watching a master pianist suddenly forget how to play the piano, or a brilliant surgeon forget how to hold a scalpel. Keith's muscle memory, built up over decades of cricket, seemed to have disappeared overnight. Cricket is as much mental as physical, and Keith's mind was his worst enemy during the 1996 World Cup. After his first failure, he probably told himself it was just bad luck. After the second disaster, doubt began creeping in. By the third and fourth failures, that doubt had become paralyzing fear. Cricket players call it getting in your own head. Instead of thinking, I'm going to score runs, Keith was probably thinking, please don't let me fail again. This negative thinking created a vicious cycle where each failure made the next one more likely. The pressure of playing in cricket's biggest tournament made everything worse. Keith knew millions of people were watching his humiliation unfold. He could see disappointment in his teammates' eyes. He could imagine the headlines being written about his failures. He could picture the devastated faces of Caribbean cricket, fans watching their hero crumble. This kind of pressure can paralyze even the world's best athletes. Keith had handled pressure before, but nothing like this. The combination of repeated public failure and the enormous importance of the World Cup created a perfect storm that shattered his confidence completely. Keith's collapse didn't just hurt him. It devastated the entire West Indies team. Cricket. Teams are like complex machines where every part must work properly. When one crucial component fails, the whole machine breaks down. Keith was supposed to be one of the team's main run scorers. When he failed so spectacularly, other players had to try compensating for his lack of runs. This extra pressure sometimes caused them to fail too, creating a domino effect of poor performances. The team captain and coaches faced impossible decisions. Should they keep giving Keith chances, hoping he'd rediscover his form? Should they drop him and admit their star player had completely lost it? Should they change tactics to hide his weaknesses? Every option seemed wrong. Even Keith's bowling suffered as his confidence cracked. When a player loses faith in one skill, it often affects everything else they do. Keith's bowling, once a strength, became ineffective as his mental state deteriorated. In 1996, social media didn't exist, but the cricket world still found ways to dissect Keith's disaster. Newspapers wrote detailed analyses trying to explain what was going wrong. Television commentators discussed his problems during live broadcasts. Cricket experts offered theories about why such a talented player was failing so badly. This constant scrutiny made Keith's situation even more unbearable. Every time he walked onto the field, everyone watching knew about his previous failures. Commentators would mention his terrible World Cup statistics. Crowds might even boo or make cruel comments about his performances. Caribbean cricket fans, who had once cheered Keith's every move, watched in horror as their hero fell apart on the world's biggest stage. Many felt genuine sympathy for Keith, but others became angry and frustrated. Some questioned whether he deserved his place in the team or if he was mentally weak. Cricket writers began using Keith's story as the ultimate example of how quickly things can go wrong in professional sports. Articles appeared about the psychology of failure and how mental pressure can destroy even the most gifted athletes. Keith became a cautionary tale while the tournament was still happening. His name became synonymous with catastrophic failure. Under pressure, a reputation that would haunt him for the rest of his career. When the 1996 World Cup mercifully ended, Keith tried desperately to rebuild his shattered career. He continued playing one-day cricket for the West Indies for 3 more years until May 1999, showing remarkable courage. Many players would have quit immediately after such public humiliation. But something fundamental had broken inside Keith's cricket brain. Experts say he never fully recovered from what happened in 1996. The natural timing, confidence, and instinctive decision-making that had made him a world-class player seemed permanently damaged. Keith's post-World Cup performances were inconsistent, at best. He had occasional decent innings, but never returned to his pre-1996 level. The fearless batter who once dominated bowling attacks had been replaced by someone who seemed more focused on avoiding failure than achieving success. This is perhaps the cruelest thing that can happen to any athlete. when one traumatic experience permanently damages their ability to perform. Keith's physical skills remained intact. He could still hold a bat and run between wickets, but the mental side of his game, equally important in cricket, had been broken beyond repair. Today, almost 30 years later, Keith Arthurton is remembered primarily for his 1996 World Cup nightmare rather than his many achievements. This tragic legacy overshadows the fact that he played 33 test matches over 7 years, something most cricketers can only dream of achieving. Keith's story has become required learning for young cricketers worldwide. Coaches use his experience to teach mental toughness and pressure management. Sports psychologists study his case to understand how confidence can be destroyed and how athletes might recover from devastating failures. His name appears whenever cricket writers discuss players who never recovered from one bad tournament. Keith Arthurton has become cricket's ultimate cautionary tale about the fragility of confidence and the brutal nature of professional sports. But there's another way to view Keith's story. Simply making it to international cricket from tiny Nevis was an extraordinary achievement. Becoming one of the world's top 100 cricket players is something remarkable that most people couldn't accomplish regardless of where they were born. Keith also showed incredible bravery by continuing to play after his World Cup disaster. Most people would have quit cricket entirely after such public failure, but Keith kept trying. Even though he never fully recovered, he refused to give up immediately. Keith Arthurton's story teaches us uncomfortable truths about sports, pressure, and human psychology. It shows how fragile confidence can be, even for world-class athletes who have proven themselves repeatedly. A few weeks of failure was enough to permanently damage confidence built over decades. His experience also demonstrates the crushing pressure that comes with representing your country on sport's biggest stages. Keith wasn't just playing for personal glory. He carried the hopes and dreams of millions of Caribbean cricket fans. That kind of responsibility can become overwhelming when things go wrong. The story shows how public failure in professional sports is uniquely painful. When ordinary people fail at work, usually only colleagues notice. When professional athletes fail, millions witness it and many more read about it later. This public humiliation can be psychologically devastating. Finally, Keith's experience proves how one terrible period can overshadow years of excellent work. Despite playing international cricket successfully for over a decade, he's remembered mainly for his worst moments rather than his many triumphs. It's impossible not to wonder what might have happened if Keith's 1996 World Cup had gone normally. If he had scored his usual 25-30 runs per innings instead of 2 total, his career might have continued successfully for years. He might be remembered as a reliable West Indies contributor rather than cricket's most famous failure. Keith Arthurton went from being a Caribbean hero to experiencing sport's most complete mental breakdown. His story proves that in professional athletics, even the most talented players are just a few bad performances away from career disaster. The boy from tiny Nevis who reached cricket's summit will always be remembered more for his fall than his rise. But perhaps we should also remember his remarkable journey to the top and the courage it took to keep playing after his world collapsed. Keith Arthurton's story is tragic, but it's also a testament to human resilience in the face of devastating failure.